Guys, when I found out that Artifact Uprising was going to be one of our sponsors, I lost my mind because I've literally done all my holiday shopping through them for the last couple of years, and the gifts are always a massive hit. Artifact Uprising is a Colorado-based company that sells premium quality, customizable photo goods for your digital photos. They want to help you preserve your meaningful moments this holiday season. Whether you want to say I love you with the perfect gift, display favorite memories in your home, or connect with loved ones throughout the year, they have a product you can personalize. I've gotten photo books, calendars, and scrapbooks, and they are always simply beautiful and always a hit because of how personalized they feel. Like I mentioned, I've gotten many gifts over the years, but I kind of wanted my own photo book about having that physical memento to put in your home. I decided to make a photo book of me and my partner's first year together, and we have just so many photos, but it was easy to go through them, and the book came out beautifully. And who knows, maybe one day we can share it with our future children to show them how young and crazy their parents once were. Artifact Uprising makes it easy to tell your story. Through the end of the year, Dateable listeners can give Artifact Uprising a try and get 20% off for new customers or 15% off if you purchased before. Just visit artifactuprising.com and use the code Dateable through December 31st.
Are you like me and you love the convenience of ordering out, but between the inflated prices and tips and the less than healthy menu options, it really makes you think twice before ordering, right? Well, Gobble's here to help busy people like us enjoy healthier home cooking without the hassle. Instead of meal prepping and shopping, you just customize your weekly menu, get your delivery, and spend as little as 15 minutes to serve a delicious homemade dinner any night of the week. And this week, I made chicken fettuccine that was simply divine. And both Julie and I made it at the same time. I know, we're so cute. And we could not stop raving about how delicious it was. It was so easy to whip up in less than 15 minutes, and everything I needed was already in the box. For our wonderful listeners, we have a special deal to help you get started for less. See what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering our listeners a fantastic limited time deal. Get $120 off across 4 boxes, plus free shipping and free cookies. The cookies are so good. Go to gobble.com/dateable podcast. That's GOBBLE.com/DATEABLE podcast today. This offer is not available on their home site, so don't miss out. Hi, I'm Yui Shu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to Dateable. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of Dateable.
Happy to have you join us, as always. And we're always happy to talk about modern dating and the state of modern dating right now.
Our favorite topic. Never gets old.
It would be funny if one day we're like, today we're going to talk about finances. We're going to talk about the stock market.
Yep. And not related to dating.
Oh, yeah. At all. Yeah. Zero relationship. We've decided to pivot this to cooking show.
You can relate everything to dating, even cooking. Convinced.
Can you?
Yeah.
Give me an example.
Okay. I think like what someone's relationship is to cooking is so indicative of how they build a home, a life, what expectations they have of a partner, especially with like more like heteronormative dynamics, right? Like if someone's like, oh, like a guy is like, I never cook. And the expectation is you're going to be doing all that. Or a man like mine that loves cooking. I was like, yeah, winner.
Do you think it's a red flag if someone just doesn't cook at all?
I hate using the word red flag because it's not a red flag. But okay, so my ex did not cook at all. And I've thought about this. I'm like, I would have had to do every single meal. Or we would have had to do takeout or food out, and that's really unhealthy and a shit ton of money. Yeah. It just wouldn't be a sustainable life in either of those. So I think it's a red flag in the sense of like, is this something I can do for the long haul?
Yeah. Or you're like my parents. So my mom always complains my dad doesn't cook. But then when he does, she's like, I don't like his cooking. They're like, Mom, that you can't complain about him not cooking. It's not like he's not trying.
I guess it's maybe a red flag if you're the one that doesn't want to do this forever. But if you enjoy it and don't mind it or prefer that you have the control, maybe not.
Yeah, I can see that. Or like, what is your attitude towards learning to cook or wanting to take care of someone if they're sick? Like, I think those are the behaviors. It's not just, can you whip up a meal? I hope most of us can whip up a meal at this
It
point.
doesn't have to be gourmet. Yeah, it could be like literally gobble or something. Like it doesn't need to be hardcore.
Yeah, get food on the table somehow to show that you're like helping out with the household and providing for you two.
Or you have a different role. My partner does cook most of the time. Not that I can't cook. I absolutely can and enjoy doing it. And I do either assist and help out, or there are some nights I do it. But I'm also the laundry person. That's my role. So I think it's like, it's the sharing of household responsibilities versus are you going to be the one doing it all? Or are you okay with that? If you're okay with that.
Yeah. Build on your strengths. Know what your strengths are. I think that's also kind of like what is so fucked up about modern dating is we have these preconceived notions around roles and we got to fulfill these roles. And if someone doesn't fulfill these roles, then there's something wrong. But what you've just described is like a very flexible relationship that you build between the two of you based on your strengths, based on your passions, and then you make it work just for you two.
Yeah. What a transition to one of the challenges we're facing today.
Many challenges. We have a huge challenge, though. There is a more dire challenge than cooking and splitting household chores. It's a bigger picture challenge, and we don't think we can go much longer with having this looming over us. A lot of urgency around. When you say, Julie, like, this is like a PSA.
Yeah, this love crisis is what we're calling it.
Oh.
We are sounding the alarm because if we can't even get this off the ground, then nothing else even matters. Doesn't matter who cooks.
Yeah, the ecosystem is broken. We got to fix it.
To be honest, when we were thinking about our book and where we wanted to go with it, our agent, shout out to Anna, who helped us at the time, one of like the prompts was like, is there something cultural happening? And we were like, it feels like we're in a love crisis. Like it feels like everyone is just so down on dating. Just everything feels so negative right now. And we really think this is a huge, huge issue.
And remember, this was 2 years ago. So we were just seeing the symptoms of the illness. And when I say symptoms, we were seeing people taking a ton of dating sabbaticals, swearing off dating apps for a few months. People saying, I really just need a break right now. I'm frustrated. That was 2 years ago. Fast forward to now, it's gotten 100 times worse. We're getting to a point where we're seeing so many people, and that this is all validated through a lot of the articles that have come out recently with research. A lot of you have just given up altogether. It's not just taking a dating sabbatical. It's taking a leave of absence.
Yeah. I mean, there was an article on The Economist of just like how dating apps are done, basically. Like no one wants to be on them anymore. And as someone that met their partner on a dating app, that breaks my heart so much because I really think there are effective ways to use them. But I also hear people's gripes with them. And when it wears on you for that long, I get turning off of that.
And then for a while, we were seeing the decline of birth rates. So when you see that manifest into a stat that the world is very concerned about, you know that there's a root of the problem somewhere. And the root of the problem is people are starting to drop off from the dating market. They're not even getting to the making kids part. I mean, that's like the least of their worries. They're not even starting with dating and meeting new people. And it's alarming to us because only in 2 years, we've seen this go from, I'm just taking a little break, to now, fuck it. I don't even want to do it.
Yeah, there was someone that posted, we've been having on Instagram, like the ability to ask us questions and we'll answer them. And someone was like, am I noticing that it just feels so like hostile right now, like towards like the opposite sex? And, you know, if you're a hetero dater, the person that you're trying to date. And there is like a lot of hostility. And I think for a while, I thought the birth rate stat that you just mentioned was because like people were like, well, I can choose my lifestyle. I don't need to get married and have kids. And I was like, that's not a bad thing. Like, I actually think it's nice that we don't have to go and conform to a specific role if that's not what it's meant for us. Of course, if it is, by all means do it. But I think what's sad is when we're just giving up because it's so difficult. It's not a choice. And I think that's where this love crisis for dating is coming in, is that like it's just so miserable out there that I'm just not going to partake, or I'm going to just talk about how miserable it is all the time. And that's just not the energy that anyone wants to be living day in, day out.
It's toxic out there. It's like you have to wear a gas mask to go into the dating scene because it's so toxic. And you all may be wondering, what is this love crisis that we're talking about? If we were to put it into a definition, what would it be? Because I know after this episode, you probably want to tell your friends about this, right? Like discuss it with your friends and see if they're noticing the same thing. We are currently defining the love crisis. We, as in Julie and I, are defining the love crisis as a societal phenomenon where people looking for love are increasingly disillusioned with modern dating, leading to a significant decline in their desire or willingness to engage in romantic pursuits.
And I mean, I think we've seen a lot of stats that back this up completely. There was one on Psychology Today. 50% of singles said they were uninterested in a romantic relationship or even a date.
I mean, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting served these ads with the rise of the incel movement all over the world now. Nearly half of Americans currently report being stressed about their love life and saying dating is harder today than it was 10 years ago, with 75% of daters saying that they found it very to somewhat difficult to date in the past year, according to Pew. That's also troubling because it just shows the general disgust people have with dating and the terrible relationship they have with just modern dating in general.
And I'm worried that if it's harder today than it was 10 years ago, what's another 10 years if we don't get this under control? Like, what is it in Japan? People just are foregoing relationships completely?
Oh, altogether.
Like, I'm worried that that's going to be like worldwide.
Yeah, like Japan, Singapore are all countries where there's government-sanctioned dating events. They will pay you to go to these events and they'll pay you to fuck each other and they'll pay you to get married. They're desperate in those countries. And well, the thing is, like, our government can't do that. There's nothing they can do to control us in that way. So what is going to happen if we reach the Japan, Singapore level and our government can't step in?
I was thinking, like, is it worse if the government doesn't step in or if they do step in? I feel like I can't even imagine if they were meddling in our dating lives. Like, they're already meddling in way too much shit.
Yeah, I think it'd be worse. It definitely would be worse.
It's debatable.
I know.
Either way, that alone is ammunition that we need to get this under control. No one wants the government.
I barely can stand my mom meddling in my love life. Why would I want the government meddling? Please leave me alone.
And I think it's fascinating. It's like then Match had a report too. 1 of 3 singles report feeling burnt out in their dating lives.
Yes.
54% of singles did not have sex in the last 12 months. That was both from a Match study. So it's like multiple reputable sources that are saying all this.
And it's not just not dating. It's not like, oh, I'm sick of dating or I'm tired from dating. I think it's the whole concept of love people are giving up on. Thinking I'm not going to be able to find someone that I want to do life with. I'm not going to even try to build life or build a relationship with someone. It's not even just dating anymore.
And I mean, all of this, government is scary. That's one scary thing. It all kind of correlates and ties into this loneliness epidemic that we keep hearing about. And I almost feel like loneliness, it's like doesn't capture it enough. Because we heard a bunch of talks at South by Southwest this year. We heard one from the Hinge founder, and then also Jay Shetty talked about this. This was like a recurring theme. And I remember I went to the talk with Justin, the CEO of Hinge. And I remember talking to you after UA about what I learned. And like a big piece for me was this feeling of loneliness when you're sitting next to someone or being like not feeling like you're like heard or understood. And I think like the whole dating realm, I mean, if you're going into dates looking for red flags, looking for icks, like how can the other person on the receiving end feel good about being in that presence along with you too? But also just like how miserable dating feels, like the loneliness when you're around other couples or seeing them on social media. Like all of that, I feel like totally messes with our psyches.
Yeah, I think it's you've all heard this before. We are more disconnected than ever before in a world where we are more connected than ever before.
Yeah.
Technologically. So why is there such a, pun intended, disconnect between the two? I mean, shouldn't we feel like we are part of something bigger and part of these communities more. No, I think we do feel more isolated than ever before. And that isolation, that feeling of loneliness is detrimental to our health. There are studies that show that it can increase your risk of dementia, heart disease, stroke. That's wild. It's like, oh, if you knew that you can take a pill to lessen your risk of dementia, you probably take it, right? What if you're prescribed dating, or like less loneliness as your prescription? What would you do about that?
I mean, I think like it shouldn't be the loneliness epidemic. It should be the disconnection epidemic.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what's happening on dates too. Like you're going to this environment where in theory you should feel like the most connected to another human being.
Right.
Like this is love, this is romance, but we're sitting there feeling completely disconnected in this environment that's ripe for connection. And, other stats too with the whole loneliness epidemic, it's as dangerous as obesity and smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Like these are things that people are always talking about that are detrimental for health, yet no one's talking about how being disconnected is.
And it's making us into miserable fucks. I'm sorry, but
yeah.
If you're one of those like internet trolls who likes just leave mean comments on our videos or everybody's videos, you're lonely.
Everyone's videos.
You're lonely.
Twitter is the most terrible place in the world. I swear the world is ending on Twitter.
Full of lonely people who want to express themselves and who want to instigate emotions out of people they do not know, somehow makes them feel less lonely. But then, in the end, probably makes them feel more miserable. So next time you put up a mean comment, just think, is it because I'm lonely? Probably.
So anyways, we're not going to go through this entire episode dwelling on all that's wrong, but we do want to sound this alarm because we believe strongly in it. And of course, with this episode too, we want to, identify some of the cultural shifts that have transformed the dating landscape, which have made it more complex. But then also, what are some solutions? Like, what are some ways out of this? And this is actually the introduction of our book.
Yeah.
We're in a love crisis. That is the start of it, because I really think that is the crux of the problem out here and why we're like, we need to write a book with all this information, because we see it as, again, the next 10 years. We don't want it to get to that place.
And listen, there is a solution. There is a way to prevent this. We do not want to be reactive to the love crisis, because all we're going to do are going to find these Band-Aid solutions that will not repair the root of the cause. We are here to let you all know that there are preventative ways that you can help yourself out of the love crisis. And we're on a mission to fucking do this. Rescue all of us out of the love crisis, because we cannot all be miserable fucks. That's not the goal.
I know we could talk about this topic forever, I swear. But before we get into all of it, reminder to pre-order that book that we were so lovingly talking about. If you're on YouTube, UA is pointing to it in the back. We also have some posters that we made from one of our sponsors, actually, Artifact Uprising. We got some beautiful posters printed, and they will be in our background shortly. So if you're not on YouTube yet, or on Instagram, we will be posting clips there too. You can follow us and see these wonderful posters. But you know what else you can do is just go over to pre-order that book, howtobedateable.com, or it's on Barnes & Noble's, Amazon. Bookshop.com is where you can buy through local bookstores. I didn't actually know that. I'm guilty. I just buy on Amazon, even though I'm like, I shouldn't. But I loved, one of my friends is like, I always buy through bookshop.com because I love supporting local. So I love that we have a way to easily do that too.
If you're on Amazon, you support our ratings and rankings. And then when you do local, you also support us in our book sales, but also support local businesses. So keep one for yourself and give one to a friend.
We've had a few people talk to us about this, that they're like, I want to give this to a friend. I don't want to insinuate that they're not dateable by the title.
Yes.
And I think this is a perfect segue. Be like, look, I listened to this episode where UA and Julie talked about this impending love crisis, And I think we need to read this book so it doesn't happen. And I bought you a copy.
Oh, how loving is that?
Problem solved.
Yeah. Just say like the book really should be titled How to Get Out of the Love Crisis. I mean, that's really what it is. It's a survival guide.
But in all seriousness, pre-orders make all the difference in the book world. You might hear us say this over and over, but we're really saying it because we want as many people as possible to buy this book. So everyone becomes more dateable and everyone sees all the traps that are getting in the way, causing this love crisis, and how we can be aware and then know how to move past them.
And if you like a shout out, because we know people love shout outs, we love shout outs, is if you leave us a rating and review, and in the body of your review, you tell us that you pre-ordered our book, we'll give you a shout out. We'll read your review.
Ooh, I love that.
I mean, we'll give you all the attention. And if you want to give us your real name, just put that in the body of the review too. If you want us to give you a shout out to your dog, we'll do it. I mean, we'll dance, monkey dance. We'll do whatever you tell us to do if you tell us that you pre-ordered our book.
And if you're a Spotify listener, you can always leave it in comments even on Spotify, because there's a way to comment on episodes. But also feel free to give us a rating there and drop us an email saying you did it. That also will go a long way. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I want to get into all of it because there's so much to unpack in this episode. But before we do, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors.
Do you ever feel like you want to enjoy the little things in life a little more? Really stop and savor the moment? Well, Via Gummies can really help with that. Slowing things down to be in the present. Trusted by over 250,000 customers, Via's hemp products are the Swiss Army knife of wellness. Need to chill out after a long day? There's a Via gummy for that. Dealing with anxiety or stress? There's a gummy for that. Want to set the mood in the bedroom? Oh yeah, there's a gummy for that, because Via has developed a unique blend of pleasure-enhancing, libido-strengthening herbs and a medium dose of THC all into one mind-blowing gummy called High Love. Their best-selling High Love gummy is my go-to because it awakens my senses and increases blood flow, making me feel so present in the moment. So if you're over 21, head to viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off. That's VIIAHEMP.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with High Love from Via Hemp.
We're officially entering fall, and I don't know about you, but this is by far my favorite season. Between pumpkin spice lattes and sweater weather, it's the best. And Quince makes it easy to shift my wardrobe from summer to fall with high-quality items that don't blow my budget. I'm obsessed with the tan cashmere sweater I got from them. It's one of their signature items, and it's just so soft and luxurious. And $50. That's unheard of for cashmere. And the quality is to the same level of luxury brands that cost a heck lot more. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands, and that's because Quince partners directly with top factories, cutting out the cost to the middleman and passes the savings on to us. Make switching season a breeze with Quince's high-quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dateable. Okay, so getting into it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the book. I don't want to say it's not, but it's not actually the introduction at all.
No.
This is more just like overarching themes of the whole book, but just in general, like, why are we dealing with what we're dealing with? We whittled it down to 5 main factors. There's probably more, but 5 factors that we really think are contributing to this whole like cultural shift of modern dating and why dating is so hard and people are avoiding love and don't want to even do it anymore.
And it's not your fault, right?
It's not your fault.
That's
yes.
the whole point, is like we got here not because of anything you did, it's because of collectively what we've experienced. That's how we got here.
And I think also just a note up top, these aren't necessarily bad things in themselves.
Right.
It's more of the effect of them that's contributed to the love crisis.
Good point. Good point.
Okay. The first one, shifting gender roles. Mm-hmm. One of our favorite topics on Dateable.
Because we've seen this from us, even from almost 9 years of doing this podcast.
Oh my God.
We both had some notion of gender rules that were not negotiable at some point, right? Because we grew up with some of these belief systems. And me having a background as a dating coach, I was very much about gender roles. I mean, that's how I coach all my clients is you be the man and let her be the woman, and you do this and let the woman do this. And it worked for a while because it brought some sort of structure to dating.
Yeah.
But it also restricted a lot of our freedom. So it's a good thing that we're seeing shifting gender roles. We're just in that weird purgatory state where nobody knows what to do.
So I was talking to a friend of mine. We went out to dinner the other day, and she's married, so it's not really affecting her anymore. But we got on this topic about just the challenges with gender roles and like making the moves. And she was like, I think just men should always make the first move. Like that should be like the rule that happens. And I was like, I just don't feel like I agree anymore, because like when we were just like sitting back and waiting as women, that was not empowering either. Like I remember feeling very much like my love life was in the control of the people picking me.
Yes.
And not being the chooser myself. And I don't think that's a place any of us want to go back to. The other piece too is I just feel like the way that life moves in today's world, like with dating apps, just thinking about it, like my partner could have easily missed me. It's so easy to miss people, especially if you only get like, I think at the time he was on like non-Hinge premium, and you only got like 5 people a day. And then if you come back the next day, like you could have whole different people, right? And I was on the premium version where I got unlimited. So of course I was like, you know, swiping through more people and liking and commenting. And I feel like if I was just sitting there waiting, like the odds of him missing me could have been so high.
True.
So like, why would that be serving in any way? I don't think that's empowering. I do agree that it's confusing nowadays that people don't know what to do. But I'm not sure if going back to this like black and white approach of like men should always do it is healthy either.
There has to be a natural, organic middle ground. In every other aspect of our lives, we have so much agency over what we do. I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. I'm sleepy, I'm going to sleep. I don't understand why, when it comes to dating, we are constantly at an internal battle with ourselves on if we should take any action. I think the ultimate learning from this is take action. If you feel compelled to ask someone out, to ask a question, to invite someone, then that is a sign that you can just do it. Who's stopping you?
I think the other big piece too for action is to like decouple that if you make the first move, it means that you have to make every move. It kind of goes back to what you were saying with your friends with Bumble. I don't think that was the intention of Bumble. Was that women do like everything. That certainly was not it. I agree it made it more confusing and complex. And they actually backpedaled on all of that.
Yes.
We're so like all or nothing with everything. Like just because someone makes the first move doesn't mean you need to be leading the entire relationship.
Yes.
We get that all the time, like on Instagram. I remember like we had a video with Talia from Dating Intentionally, and she's a big proponent of making the first move. And there were a lot of comments on there of like, but then I'm leading the entire relationship. And it's like, no, you're not. You don't have to be. And if you are, then that's a sign that this isn't the right relationship either. I feel like personally, when I've given that first move, like I've given an inch, they've gone the mile.
Right.
Like that was the permission to go. And if you feel like you're the only one ever doing it, that's not a relationship at the end of the day. That's you holding down the whole ship.
I think it's because for so long we think of dating as a zero-sum game. Like we think I give 50, you give 50. I give 80, then now you give me 20. What if we thought about dating as more expansive? If I'm willing to go 80, then maybe that inspires you to go 80. And the next time I want to go 100 because we just keep expanding on each other instead of being this like, oh no, I gave this much and now you got to give that. And the next time you got to lead. And how exhausting would that be if you're keeping tabs on your partner?
I just think this is something that's at the core of so much of it is that there's all these unwritten rules with dating that you're supposed to act a certain way. There's no other part of life that you are that scorekeeping of how many times you reach out, how often you text. Why is it like that? I think some of it comes from like this give-get mentality. We're always thinking about like, what are we getting in dating, not what are we giving?
Yep. And that's why we are in this love crisis, because Either you are so frustrated with keeping tabs, you're tired from doing it, or you just have no idea what you're supposed to do. What are the unwritten rules? There's no guidebook for you to read that you just like, forget it. I can't try to read people's minds, and I'm not even going to do all the guesswork. So that's probably why some of you have given up.
Yeah.
Second contributing factor is this emphasis on individualism. Fascinating, though. It's like, on one hand, we really want to tout people for being individualistic, to be independent, to have a strong sense of self. But in this society, we talk about individualism away from a partnership. It's almost like if you are dating, you are giving up your individualism. So you can either have one or the other.
Yeah, or your expectations when you're dating. It's all like centered around, again, the give versus get. You're thinking about, what am I getting from this interaction? Am I getting enough? And again, this is like not to say that you shouldn't be getting your needs met. You absolutely should. But you also need to be giving to someone else too. It can't just be one-sided.
Yes. And so many of daters out there who've been single for a long time or who have a really strong sense of self feel like, oh, I have to sacrifice myself to be in a relationship. I have to sacrifice this person I've built all these years. I have to sacrifice my identity as a single independent person. I'm not willing to do that for someone. And that's where we get into the power dynamics. It's like, I'm only going to look for someone who I feel like it's worth sacrificing myself for. Well, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a choice.
No. And then on the flip side too, even if you want a relationship, we've been building up the skills to make us an individual for all our lives. We've been, focused on our education and careers, self-development, and again, all these great things.
Yes.
Don't want to diminish that.
Yes.
But we have not learned any relational skills. That's why
Right.
when you go on a date and someone literally reads off their resume thinking that's what is going to impress you to want to date them.
And it's good.
Yeah.
Good for everybody who's working on themselves. You've all done so much self-work. We have an example of a friend who has done exactly this. She's been single for a long time. She's done a lot of really impressive self-work. But in a relationship, the relational skills that you get to use in a relationship, you don't learn by yourself and on your own. You can't go to a seminar or a retreat or ayahuasca trip and learn how to relate to someone in a relationship. And with our friend, she's starting to find the struggles of parsing out like, okay, I did all this self-work, but why can't I apply it in this relationship? Well, yeah, because a lot of it you have to learn on the job, quote unquote. And it's hands-on. It's not like you could just read it in a textbook.
I also think there's a certain level of vulnerability that comes with becoming a we.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That a lot of us shy away from. It's, again, ego and anything that builds us up as the individual. It's scary to go there and to have another person there to judge and to like be in it with you and all of that and to hurt you. And I think that closes a lot of us off because it's something we feel like we don't have control of almost. Like we hear this a lot of like, I can control my career. I can control all this because it's me. I'm at the forefront. But when it's a we, that's when it gets scary because I feel out of control.
Sometimes I've done this. I will sabotage a relationship just to preserve my individuality. I mean, I am like the poster child for someone who will still be like, well, I'm going to go on a month-long trip without you, even though we just started dating, because I need to establish myself as still a strong individual. Well, like in a relationship, I've learned the hard way that you do have to account for someone else in your life. You don't have to bend over backwards for someone else, but you do merge lives, and that takes accountability of someone else.
It's so fascinating because I think like that piece, what you just described, like there's a side of being like, I don't want to lose myself. But then there's also like a side of, I don't want to let this person hurt me. So I'm going to like assert myself as this individual. And then I almost have like a shield on protecting myself at the same time.
I think it's the same.
It is.
They're both driven by fear.
100%. It's like different sides of the same coin, basically.
Totally.
So I think an action people can take is getting into this partnership mindset. Like I think especially in early dating, it's always me versus you. Them, what did they do? What did I do? How do we get more into I'm building a partnership, thinking of us as a team, even if it's literally a team and partnership for 1 hour for a date? I think this individual aspect is not a relationship, and that's causing us to date in a way that's not driven by connection. It's driven by this, how can I prove myself, or how can I make sure that I have the upper hand, or I'm not hurt, or I maintain my boundaries, or whatever it is. But how can we like give in a little and be like, I'm just going to approach this tonight as a partnership?
Yeah. How would that feel in your body? I still remember our feng shui episode where the expert talked about having 2 of everything in your house just so you can start creating space for someone else. I found that so profound. I didn't have 2 nightstands until I was in a 5-year relationship.
Yeah.
I always was like, I just need one. Like, well, who cares about the other side? I just need my water on one side. But after realizing I could have 2 nightstands, it now makes me, whenever I go to bed, I look at both nightstands and think, oh, are both of them accounted for? Even if sometimes there isn't someone on that other side of the bed, it does allow me to create space both physically in the room, but also just mentally having capacity for someone else.
I'm so glad you brought that example up, because I feel like that's such like an easy one for people to understand and get behind. And I can like hear people being like, well, I'm not going to act like I'm in a partnership if I've only met this person that day. But that is exactly what's wrong with our mentality and dating.
Yes.
And you're not like giving yourself up in that. Like, I think that's where it's coming from. It's like, I don't want to be taken advantage, right?
Right.
We're not saying to like bend over backwards for this other person, because you shouldn't be doing that in a relationship either. But thinking with this like we mentality as you go into the date, that's how you would act if you were in a relationship.
Exactly.
How do we act more like in a relationship on dates?
Exactly.
Okay, so much to unpack there. I think the third one, social media and digital culture. A lot here. I mean, we've talked about this one a lot on this podcast about just the consumer-like mindset in dating that's driven by the apps, this feeling like I'm relationship shopping, I'm on Amazon, I have my checklist.
Yeah.
I think the other side, though, is just the unrealistic expectations that social media gives.
Yep.
Like, I think it's the entire technological landscape. I think you could also throw texting in here, too. Just how much is misinterpreted through text, how much emphasis text gives in dating, when it really isn't even that big part of your relationship when you're living with someone.
Yes, exactly. I think social media and technology in general gives us this false sense of intimacy.
Yeah.
There's twofolds to this. Sometimes you can feel much closer than you actually are. And you can also feel this false sense of intimacy with people you don't know, like on social media. And one of the, I think, major shifts that I've noticed in recent years is that people always think things happen overnight. Like, wait, how did this person get in a relationship already?
Yeah.
Or how did they break up already? Or how did this person get so famous already? Everything feels like it just happens like that.
Yeah.
Because we don't see the steps in between. So what this does for a lot of daters is that they think, well, I've been dating for years and I still haven't found someone. Why isn't it happening for me? But it looks like it happened overnight for this person. That feeling of suddenness and the impatience that goes with it is what makes a lot of people step out of dating, because they're like, I give up. Like, it's happening for everybody else around me and so fast. It's just not meant for me.
I can even relate to that just in our field, right?
Yeah.
Like, you'll see these people pop up that have huge followings, and maybe by the time you're getting our book and airing this, you'll see us and be like, wow. But then there's the 10 years that we've been doing this, or who knows how long they've been doing it for the people I see.
Yeah.
You don't see any of that. You only see them and when they're at the place that you want to see them, or like that they're ready to be seen, that there's something out there for you. Such a good point. And I think like, I mean, I'm so guilty of this, even with relationships. Like, I feel like recently I like saw a post by someone that any engagement post, I'm always like, why did it happen so quickly?
Yeah, yes.
You know, like, I feel like I always go to that, and it's not like I'm okay with my timing and I know it's unfolding as it's meant to be, but there's a side of me that goes there when I see that. And that's really detrimental because I don't know their story at all. I don't know their reasoning. I'm only just seeing like this action that's the output, you know?
They're not posting about all the swipes and like all the endless messaging that they're doing on social media. Of course, they're going to like post about these milestones. I saw this meme that was like Ben Affleck and J-Lo got engaged, broke up, married other people, had kids, and then got back together, engaged, married, and broke up again. And I still haven't found someone.
Yeah.
And I get it. I think like if you think about life in milestones, like, yeah, that happened. So many things happened to those two. But if you put your life in milestones in those last, I don't even know how many years this all happened, 5, 6, 10, I don't know. Someone else could also see your life in the same way. Oh my gosh, they moved to
100%.
here, they bought this house. There's so many milestones in that too. So it's all perspective. And we choose to take the perspective of being inferior or the scarcity perspective. Oh, I don't get that, but someone else deserves all that. It's all perspective because this is how life happens and how it's perceived through social media.
I feel like this is a core part of our book with the expectation of love on demand and settling paradox, which are two of the traps that we discuss at length. But I think this is the assumptions, right? The assumptions of the digital world. And I think this extends into dating. We hear a lot of time people that have met their partners IRL and they're like, I would never have swiped on this person.
Yeah.
I remember Logan Yuri, who we've had on this podcast multiple times. She talked about like even with her husband, like when she saw his profile, she was like, oh, tech bro.
Yeah.
No thanks, you know?
Right.
And I think it's because we fill in all the gaps, all the blanks, like you were saying with, you know, social media, the life milestones, but also when we were seeing people online, like, how many times have you gotten a text from someone being like, you know, what do you think of this person? Like, do you think they'll actually look the same way that they do in person? Or like, are they still cute if they don't have a hat on? Like all this stuff. And it's like, you're not going to know until you meet them. We're spending all this time in the assumption stage.
We're just spending time in the wrong places. And when we spend our time in places that are draining, of course, we're going to be at a love crisis because we are completely drained. Your batteries are not working. You're like an iPhone 2 or 3. Was that what they were even called back then? Like you're like the oldest iPhone.
OG.
Yeah. You're like an iPod, basically. You just like don't charge anymore because your battery is so fucking drained at this point. So think about like the way we can use social media and technology is think about how can we use it in a way that energizes us? And at 43 years old, I can say this is the first time in my life I've learned to use social media to energize me as opposed to draining me because I realize I can manipulate the algorithm for what it serves me, what content I get to see.
I like that. This is maybe a weird idea, but hear me out on this.
I'm into weird.
I feel like because like we're always making assumptions of someone's online presence and like, you know, assuming that they have it all figured out or what we see is 100% reality. What if for one day you take a photo of yourself every hour? Like you have a set time so you can't manipulate it and you can see how much of your day you're either doing mundane tasks or not looking your best. And then you could actually say like, okay, what would I have actually posted on social media? Or what would I put on my dating profile? And then you realize that like a fraction of your life is going into this. So next time we're seeing social media, we're seeing someone's profile, we're like, okay, there's actually a whole person behind there. We don't know what they're doing with 99% of their time.
Oh, that's such a great idea. And if you don't want to do that for a whole day, just follow an influencer around for an hour and you'll see. I followed one the other day. I mean, that sounds so creepy. I did not stalk this person. I
like
just
followed them in real life. In
real life,
saying,
yes.
Not on the oh my God.
Yes,
yeah.
I happened to run into someone who looked like an influencer at a pool party. And she went by herself. This is like a banging pool party on a rooftop in West Hollywood. She went by herself, propped up a tripod, and filmed herself dancing in the pool to music that I could not hear. Like it was something that she was hearing, I don't know through what, for hours. She was not there with anybody. And when she was done filming whatever the fuck she was doing, she got dressed and left. And I was like, this is the saddest thing I've ever seen. When everybody else is there connecting, dancing, socializing, was she talking to her millions of followers.
It's terrible.
Yet had nobody physically there. But if you watched her, you probably would think she was the life of the party. She was hosting the pool party.
That is depressing.
Isn't it?
Well, we're going to get into our next two, but before we do, let's take a quick break to hear from some of our sponsors.
I love my shower time. See, I'm an evening showerer because I like to wash off the day before I hop into bed. And now with Osea's new Ondaria algae body wash, my shower routine has turned into a tropical paradise with its iconic all-natural uplifting citrusy scent. This body wash infuses your shower with the healing power of the sea, formulated with nourishing, nutrient-rich Ondaria seaweed, glycerin, and an oil blend. Also, its pH balance, hydrating formula doesn't strip skin, leaving it feeling soft and renewed. I'm personally a big fan of the gel-like texture. It just feels really nice in my hands, and it's beautiful, rich lather. And the all-natural citrusy scent that smells so vibrant. You just feel like you just went, I don't know, surfing? Even I don't surf at all. It leaves my skin feeling so wonderful and, can I just even say glamorous? Upgrade your shower with clean, vegan face and body care from Osea. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code DATEABLE at OseaMalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order and free shipping on orders over $60. Head to OSEAMalibu.com and use the code DATEABLE for 10% off.
You may have heard me mention in our newsletter that I'm in the process of planning a trip to Italy, and I don't want to be that American tourist that doesn't know any Italian. What better way than to use Rosetta Stone, the most trusted learning program available on desktop or as an app that truly immerses you in the language you want to learn. Rosetta Stone is the trusted expert for 30 years and millions of users with 25 languages offered. The whole process just feels intuitive, like you're picking up the language naturally, first with words, then phrases, and then sentences. Their true accent feature even gives you feedback on your pronunciation, something I may even need sometimes in English. This is an absolute steal right now. With 50% off, your lifetime membership includes all 25 languages, so you have this for any and all trips you need in life. So don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. Dateable listeners get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. Visit rosettastone.com/today. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% off at rosettastone.com/today today. I don't know about you, but I always struggle with cravings and bloating that time of month and just feel a little off when I get my period. This is something that's been a challenge for me for a very long time, and I recently started taking Hormone Harmony to manage my PMS, and it really supports my hormonal balance and regulation. I feel like since I've been using it, my sleep quality has improved, and it's relieved some of my mood swings. And the biggest benefit, feeling like myself again. That's what women mention over and over in their reviews. And there are 17,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. Women cannot stop talking about it on social media. Literally, a bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. Happy Mammoth, the company that created Hormone Harmony, is dedicated to making women's lives easier. It has zero sugar and it's gluten-free, dairy-free, non-GMO, and third-party tested. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code DATEABLE at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DATEABLE for 15% off today. Okay, the next one. I think this is a big one that's often forgotten. Erosion of community structures. And I think this is, the traditional structures. I mean, obviously, you can go religious like churches and temples, but it's also like local social clubs. Your extended families that used to play a role in matchmaking have completely diminished in influence.
And they're hard to find. And also, there's just like no motivation to find them until you get to a point where you're like, I could really use community. If you think about it, back in the day, you had school and then you have work. Those are built-in communities. And then after you work, you get married. So then that's your built-in family community. There wasn't much time between starting your first job and getting married for you to think about, finding belonging. But now we are having this extended time, finding ourselves in our individualism, where it's like, where do we belong? Where do we feel like we can have that Cheers moment? Oh gosh, that really ages me because a lot of you probably don't even know that reference. But basically a place you go to. Thank you. Thank you from
a fellow oldie with you.
From an elder millennial who understands that reference. But the idea is going into an institution or a place where people know your name.
The third place.
Yeah.
I think COVID did a number on this one.
Oh.
Before COVID, I mean, one of the things I always really loved about San Francisco was that it felt like there was a feeling of community.
Yeah.
Like you would see the same people. There was like these social clubs that we would go to. They were little like adult frat parties sometimes, but
yeah.
I liked what they stood for. It's like
yes.
that you would see the same people. You were excited to see people. It felt like a community building. And then also, you know, I remember like doing just different events. And I mean, obviously I did 500 brunches. That was the startup I founded because of this need, is that I was like, I want more places that you can build rapport with people, and it's not just going out and being anonymous at bars or on the internet. And I feel like all that disappeared in the pandemic. Like a lot of the events that I used to go to just don't exist anymore. Work, a lot of people that are working from home, you've lost that completely.
Yep.
You know, we've only turned to technology for dating. I think technology is great. I don't think it should replace the IRL connection in this third place.
Yes. So what happens when we don't have a sense of community? We put so much pressure on the people we're dating. We put so much emphasis on dating, like thinking that whoever we're dating is going to take the work of a community and making us feel like we belong and that we are part of something greater. And of course, those are big shoes to fill, to have to put all that pressure on the person you're dating. That's nearly impossible.
I mean, I feel really lucky that I still have community and a big friend group. And I recognize a lot of people don't.
Right.
I think as people get older and, you know, people have their friends get married and start lives that are different, especially if they're at a totally different place than their friends, it can feel really isolating to not have that sense of community. And I think if we're just meeting people IRL, kind of a shout out to our IRL masterclass, because we're kind of saying don't do this. But I think a lot of times we spin our wheels like going in real life. Like I remember going to bars all the time being like, I'm going to meet someone new. And then it's just a bunch of anonymous people in there. No one ever talks to each other. And it's just like not the right approach. I think finding community is a way better way. And, you know, I can make fun of like the run clubs, like that technique, because I think that's a little overdone for anyone that hasn't heard. There's like this whole thing on TikTok that's like, you know where to meet people? It's a run club.
Run club, yeah.
And I feel like this is not an innovative thing. There's been run clubs forever. And I think if you're a runner, then absolutely, it's a great way to meet people because, again, it has that built-in community. But to find your own run club, to find that place that has community that you can have as that third place for you, that you enjoy doing whatever the activity is, but you're with people repeatedly. Because I think that is how the connection forms. We expect it to be like the one and done. We go to this place one time. We either meet someone or we don't, but that's not how IRL and community events work.
And you might have to try a few. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to go to a run club and fall in love with everybody at the run club. It's not just the activity. You have to like mesh well with the people too. So take it on as an experiment for yourself, which is what my friend is doing right now. She told me that her challenge is that she feels like she's a peripheral friend in all her friend groups. I kind of resonate with that because it's like, yeah, when your friends get married and have kids, you do become, you know, like the friend they bring around when they want to have a singles time or a singles night. She feels like she is the peripheral friend of a group of friends who grew up together. So like she gets invited, but she doesn't know all the inside jokes and all their language. So she's really seeking a community where she's at the forefront. And she knows that she can't find that in dating. Like, of course, you want to find your person, but in the meantime, what can you do? So her experiment right now is to just try as many communities as possible and narrow it down to like 3 or 4 that she kind of likes and
Yeah.
kind of jives with, and then just start going to them on a regular basis.
Well, it just brings a much more balanced approach. Like when I met my partner, I feel like dating was additive. I still met him online. I still used technology, but I was doing other things. It wasn't like my entire existence.
Yes.
And I think having that balance was really important. And I think like this feeling like I like what your friend is doing, like using that, but it's also not just expecting you'll necessarily meet the love of your life at this event, but it's looking at like the network effect of like who else is going to come into my world. So it's like the added social benefits that aren't necessarily romantic are still going to help your dating and love life and get us out of this love crisis.
And it's energizing. Do the things that bring you energy.
Yes.
When your cup is full, you will have a much better time dating. I'll say this 1,000 times. The reason why we're in a love crisis is because we're all depleted. It's all because we're iPods. We are so depleted.
I still hold true to this. Like, while I think that relationships are unique and they can give you so much if you're with the right person, I still absolutely think you can have a happy life single, 100%. But you need to have community and people around you. Like, we're relational beings. Like, we're meant to do life with other people. And I think this love crisis of doing everything through a phone and not interacting with humans, like that's what's the loneliness epidemic that's disconnecting.
So find your version of a run club. That's our action for you. Find that place of belonging. Your cheers, if you get the reference.
Yeah.
And then on to the last but not least contributing factor to the love crisis is the ever-changing relationship dynamics and norms. Used to be monogamy and used to be this structure that we all grew up with. We knew what it looked like because generations have gone through this structure. Now we're like, it's a free-for-all. Hey, you can be in a casual relationship, long-distance relationship, or relationship non-relationship. That's what I heard the other day, a relationship non-relationship.
Oh my God, I love it.
You could be in a polyamorous relationship. You can be in an open relationship. You can also just like be asexual, pansexual, demisexual. I mean, that's just like, whoa. I don't even know how big this dictionary is just for all the words we have out there.
And again, I don't think the problem is that there's options. I actually think it's a beautiful thing. I think reframing it that this is good. I think it's so interesting to me because I feel like everyone complains about what's not happening. Like before apps, for instance, everyone was complaining, I would go out in real life and I would never meet anyone, or I only met people that wanted to hook up. And, you know, before it was like, I don't want to just marry that person next door that lives there and be expected to have 2.5 children and move to the suburbs. And now it's like, all I maybe want is that because I'm so confused with all the options out there. And again, it's good to have the flexibility and choice. That is really empowering. So if we could start to see it that way, that's step one. But the problem is that it's just completely uncharted territory. I think like the rules in those books were incredibly detrimental for dating. But why people like them is it gives you a direction. We're just directionless right now.
That's exactly it. And the problem is it's just human nature. We can't process this much choice. It's like giving us the whole universe and then all we can picture is the sun. It's the same concept. Like there's a psychological exercise where you'll be asked, name as many white things as possible. And then the next exercise is name as many white things as possible in your fridge. You end up naming the same amount of objects because all we need is a container. Yes, the options are endless, but we need a container.
Yeah.
So think about what your container is of what you're looking for in a relationship. Don't think like, oh, I could be dating an alien and then be VR. Like, that's not realistic. Think about, I want to be in the best relationship possible for myself in this container, which is I want someone local. I want this kind of lifestyle. I mean, there's like, we still need restrictions around what we're looking for.
Yeah, I remember like we had a friend, I think has dialed us down and now is in a relationship. Remember there was a period that she was just so open-minded.
Oh, yes.
Like anything goes.
Yes.
And she was always like, I don't understand why this is problematic. And again, it's just like, this is like the hard line to like tout, right?
Yes.
It's like, we're not saying don't be open-minded, but you can't just be so all over and not have any vision and North Star. we talk about this at length in the book. It's like, have that dating North Star. What is driving you? Like, where do you want to go? And then be open to how it comes in.
Yes.
Like, not be so attached to like how it should look, but you're still having that container, like you were saying, of like, I'm in control because I'm moving the ship a certain direction. I'm not just going all over the ocean, unsure of where to park that ship.
Right. You're just like floating. And then it's like, okay. I think that's like we feel sometimes like in dating, we have to define what it is we're looking for up front. It's not that. We're not asking you to do that. We're not asking you to say, choose between monogamy and polyamory. It's you want to be with someone who's willing to explore with you. So there can be many different iterations of your relationship down the line. What you don't want is to choose someone up front who is narrow-minded, who's like, I can only see us being this way. Then you can't explore all these other iterations. So don't put all the work up front for what you're looking for. Make sure you're with the right partner for it.
And again, I want to kind of go back to this. I think this is a beautiful thing when we actually look at what's going on. But we talked about this of the lost aspects that happens. But I think another big one that deep down I felt is that because like people are delaying relationships or saying like, maybe I don't need to be married or maybe I don't want kids, that we're building up other areas of life. And again, all positive things.
Yeah.
We want you to be multifaceted. We want you to have a life outside. This is a huge thing, especially for women. I think our parents' generation and above would say this was a detriment that we were so financially reliant on our partners. Like, it's a great thing. If things don't work out, you can have your life. But the part that's challenging is that I think there's a pressure that comes when all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe I do want some of this stuff. And now I'm 30 or now I'm 40.
Yes.
Like, I feel that so much that I'm like, I'm still not ready to have kids. But I know there's going to be a point where I either need to like move or not. And I'm already pushing it. And that's like a very scary, stressful environment that I think causes just so much anguish in love and relationships.
Oh, I know. It's the timeline. There's still societal pressure on both sides. It's like, it's so contradictory. It's the pressure to be somewhere at a certain age, right? You should have accomplished all this by a certain age. And then it's the pressure to be open-minded, to explore, the pressure to be like on trend. What the fuck? What are we supposed to do here? No wonder many of us are giving up on love because it's a pressure cooker that we live in. And ultimately, like you said, Julie, it's a perspective thing. See, this is a good thing. It's a privilege that we get to exercise all of these different options and then remove the noise. This is what I love about our book. There are many things, but one of the things I really love about our book is that we give you tools on how to remove the noise. There's just too much out there. Too many people in your year, even people you've never met, people who don't give a shit about you, somehow what they're saying affect you. It's time to remove the noise and only preserve what is serving you.
I mean, I think my biggest takeaway from going through all of these is that they're not inherently bad.
Yeah.
That our culture is moving this way. Maybe the only one that's not great is the loss of, community structures, but there probably is actually a benefit of that too. Like being so tied to religion isn't necessarily.
Less cults.
Yes, less cults. So, okay, I stand corrected. All of them. I think there is a positive in all of them. I mean, especially like technology, like it's connecting so many people that I would never have met my partner if it wasn't for technology. So it's not a bad thing. And again, the changing relationships, dynamic, and norms, having that choice, these are all really good things. It's up to us to figure out how to use them for good instead of being stuck in the change. I keep thinking back to that episode that we did with the Astro twins, how they were saying that we were in this shake-up period right now. Astro twins, they're astrologers, and they were saying that we're in this area where it goes from more of the traditional landscape of dating and relationships to more of this next evolution. And right now we're just in this shake-up time where we don't know how to navigate it. And it's up to us through resources like this podcast and our book to figure out those parameters and those containers that we can make it work with all the benefits that we're getting from where we're going.
Yes. And know that you're not alone in any of this. And
no,
if you've thought about giving up on love, Obviously, you're part of a cultural trend. You are so not alone.
Yeah.
But you are sort of special in this moment in time where you're listening to this episode. You've stayed this long on this episode. Something clicked for you, right? And that is the first step in taking some action. And we hope that this action will then spawn into bigger action and we can make this global change and societal change and cultural change. But it does start with you. So we're just going to ask you the question, are you willing to take action? Are you willing to try some of these new ways, new perspectives that we're going to talk about in this season of Dateable, but also in our book? Are you willing to put on this different hat and see things from a different perspective? If you are willing, then we can guarantee you that you will not fall into the love crisis and you will not fall into the traps of modern dating.
I love that. I think a perfect example is us. I'm going to bring it back to us.
Yes!
But, people always say, it's not that we're just in happy relationships. I'm not saying that's the example. The example that I'm saying is that people always, when I meet people that find out I do a dating podcast, they're always like, modern dating is the worst, right? And I'm like, no, I don't feel that way. And the fact that we are two people that talk to thousands of people about dating, we hear it all. We've heard every gripe out there and we're still believers. That to me shows that the more you learn, the more you realize it's just, a new world that we need to navigate. And it's not over, it's just new. And if we choose to look at the benefits instead of what's challenging about it, then it can actually give us more fulfilling relationships than we've ever seen with any people of different generations. I think that's a really powerful way to be like, we can get out of this.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I am so pumped.
We can do it.
I'm so pumped. I am so pumped. And also because I just imagine if everybody was in a fulfilling love life, whether in a relationship or not, it doesn't matter. You're just so fulfilled in dating. There'd be less war. There'd be less bullying. There'd be less murders and violence, because if we're all just in cuddle puddles or just feeling warm and fuzzies, who has time for war?
It all comes back to that. It's love that's going to save the day.
We are going to save the day.
Love it. Well, this has been such a great episode. Again, if you haven't by now, please leave us a rating and review. It goes such a long way. And make sure to pre-order your copy of How to Be Dateable.
Yes. Your future self will thank you. You can pre-order at howtobedateable.com. You can email us hello@dateablepodcast.com if you want to tell us anything, say anything, just be nice. You can also find us on Instagram @dateablepodcast is the username, or on YouTube, Dateable Podcast. We are freaking everywhere, and silently on TikTok, also Dateable Podcast, if you really want to see what's not going on.
Eventually, we'll get there.
If you really want to hear crickets, that's where you go. But ultimately, Instagram and YouTube are where we are most active. All right, we're going to wrap up this episode. So much meatiness in this one, but we're back for more next week. So, wrapping it up, stay dateable.